Hearing Youth, an ICMS podcast series proudly brought to you by the 10th Council of ICMS Malaysia Chapter.
Passionate Youth of Malaysia. Welcome to the second installment of the ICMS Hearing Youth podcast, where
Hear Youth.
I am Daniel Mecha, your host for today's podcast, and alongside me is my co-host, Stella.
Hello, everyone. So, every 2 months, we cover different themes of topics. And for this second episode, we're continuing with the theme of personal development, which is something everyone seeks day to day.
So in today's episode, we'll take a look at how best we can kickstart and excel in the career we're building, especially as students who are about to embark into the workplace environment. Proudly with us today is Mr. Lee Jalok and Ms. Lo Rachel. Hi there, both of you. Welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, great, glad to be back again.
All right, so before we jump right into the discussion, would you guys be able to provide to us a brief background or brief introduction as to what you guys are currently up to? So we can start with Jalok.
Right, hi everyone, I'm Jia Lok. I currently work at Changi Airport Group in Singapore. I'm also an advisor to the ICMS, the International Council of Malaysian Scholars and Associates, and I help youth realize their full potential.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. I'm currently a management consultant with the Boston Consulting Group and also a co-founder with AgriMatch, a social enterprise aimed at empowering rural farmers in Myanmar and combating food insecurity.
All right, thank you so much, Rachel and Jalok, for that introduction. Just to really outline where this episode is going, we're going to be focusing a lot more on how, as students, we can build that career that we want to seek and excel in that career, especially as uni students who are just about to head into their new environment, which is the workplace. So let's jump right into it. So the first question, which I'll ask, is looking back as students for the both of you, at the point in your life, at that point in your life, sorry, before both of you guys started joining the workplace as interns, do you guys have any advice for these groups of students that you'd give in preparation for that jump? So Rachel, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. Good question, I guess. I think this can be looked at from two different aspects. So first is mainly on the exploration phase, and the second is more to honing those skills from the insights that you have gained from the exploration. But yes, diving into the exploration phase, here it's more so of looking into um, university life as kind of like a buffet, right? It's like a global buffet where you can try. So if it's and you have the opportunity to, you can always stick with the Malaysian food, which is great, or you can maybe try a bit of Greek food, a bit of Lebanese food. And I think that's the philosophy that I kind of took with me throughout my university life. I definitely tried a lot of different kinds of food to really see, what's some things that I actually enjoyed. And through a process of elimination, kind of landed with consulting, which I am actually working on now, and it's something that I really enjoy. And so, moving to the second part of the finalization, honing of those skills, there are certain aspects there that I think was very helpful. So, the first one is really identifying, the skills that I needed to actually land that job. I know coming from a psychology background, it's actually very non-traditional. So, what are the skills that I needed to do? Like, if it's preparing for the case interview, how do I prepare for the case interview? So, number one is just identifying the skills that I needed. Second, it's then having that plan of attack, right? How do I make sure that I'm going to be getting the math skills and the problem solving skills in time for the interview? And the third was mainly on the execution. How do I make sure, I have the discipline to make sure that all of these prep cases and everything was done on time? And I think that was something that helped me land that internship and also subsequently the job.
Wonderful. And I think just to add on to what Rachel has shared, I think it's really important for students to take a deliberate look at the range of possibilities in terms of career, range of possibilities in terms of opportunities, and then pave their way towards whichever path that they choose to undertake. I think at the same time as students, it's also very important to look at other aspects. So the uni life is not just about getting a job, right? The uni life is something that's wonderful in itself as well. And so I would really encourage all students to take the opportunity to make the most of your uni life, be it participating in societies, be it identifying causes that resonate with you, and be it developing other interests as well. Because a lot of us talk about soft skills being important when it comes to your career in the future, right? And soft skills, they they don't just happen like that. Soft skills develop and they need a context to grow. And so I think when you, for example, find a society that develop, that you are interested in, be it volunteering or like ICMS, for example, where we do a lot of personal leadership and professional development. Yeah, when you find a society that you're interested in, you get to work with a team of like-minded people. You have problems to solve, you have goals to achieve, right? And that provides the context for you to work in team, for you to discuss, for you to argue, for you to make mistakes, and for you to grow out of it. And it's with context like this that we get the soft skills that we need that will subsequently feed into our career as well. And I think that is still very much focused, right, on career, on soft skills. But I think more than just that, I think university is also a time for us to discover what we are interested in and what we care about. So, for example, Rachel, she has a heart for the people in Myanmar, talking about food security. I think that's really something that's very respectable. Personally, I care a lot about opportunities for youths, especially because I come from a rural area in Malaysia. So I've seen that difference in available opportunities to people depending on the background, the demographic, the geography. And so knowing what I care about has allowed me to find areas that gives me energy, right? And I think that knowing your why and discovering what you care about is really important as well. And I think finally, talking about interests, yeah, not everything that we do has to be because it pays back in some way in your career. So if you are, for example, you love Korean dramas and you just want to pick up a new language in Korean, or if you really love singing and you just want to sing better and you take up a singing class, for example. I think all of these things are
Mhm.
worthwhile pursuits as well. Because ultimately they make you a richer person, they make you a more interesting person, right? And yeah, I think life is all about developing ourselves in all these areas. And they will come back to feed you and help you grow in your career later on.
Wow. So it seems that for both Jalak and Rachel, that you guys more or less agree that university seems to be a place where we can really try and discover ourselves. But like we mentioned earlier, what happens when we're really stepping into the working world? Like we all see working workplace environments as being more competitive. So when we are in such an environment, right, would you still advise all our listeners out there to also be explorative and more like easygoing? Or are there tips that you'd give us so that we and our listeners out there can perhaps show their potential, regardless of if it's just during an internship or like in a job application interview? Maybe Charlotte, you can take this based on your work experience.
Because he's older.
I am. Yeah, no, I think Stella, very interesting, right? I Whether you should be, open, humble, to explore. I 100% think so. I think all of us entering the workforce, even if you're 10 years in your job, there's so many things that you don't know. There's so many things that is yet to be learned, right? So I think it's always important to have that kind of mindset. But I think at the same time, when you enter the workforce, there are a few things that you can do to help yourself uh, value add as quickly as possible. So when I look back at my own experience, I started working about 3 years ago, right? I think I tend to think that everybody enter a company as a liability. Like if personally, I joined the company and then immediately I have a team, and I would join in meetings and like there will be 10 different acronyms that I know nothing about, and then throughout the whole meeting I will have to like pretend that I know what's happening, but I have my little book with me, and then I'll note down like, oh, what is uh, IAP and what is PAC and so on and so forth. And then at the end of the meeting, I would have to then ask my senior, right? So I think a lot of us kind of enter into a team more or less as a. I think that I was a burden to my team. They have to help me understand things. They have to train me up. They have to prepare me so that I can even begin doing my job, right? But looking back, I think there are a few things that we can do to help ourselves level up as quickly as possible. The first, most important thing is to get your hand on the organizational structure. I feel like when you enter into the workplace, you're usually assigned to a team, but it's really important to know what this team does and how does that relate to other teams within the organization. What kind of divisions are there in the company? What is the business model looking like? and what is your role, and how does that relate to someone else. Because when you have a clarity of how you fit into the bigger picture, you're able to perform your job a lot better, right? So I think that is the first thing I would really encourage everyone, whether you're an intern or a fresh hire, get your hand on the structure, organization structure, and see how you fit into the bigger picture. Understand the relationship across the different teams. So that's one. I also think that as I shared, I enter into it more or less as a burden, right? And why you're a burden, it's not really because you're stupid or because you're not capable. I think a big part of it is because you just lack context, and you don't really know how things work, and you don't really know what's already in place, and so on and so forth, right? And so as a fresh hire, I think the next important thing that you can do is to raise your hands and to share with people that, hey, I'm interested to learn. Can you please let me tag along? Whether it's for a sidewalk or for a meeting, and so on. And you can say that you are just happy to just sit behind and observe. Or you can say that, I'm interested to help to complete this certain task. And yeah, basically make yourself useful by value adding, by identifying gaps, by identifying opportunities to contribute. Yeah, because a lot of the times when you're a fresh hire, it's not that people do not want to involve you, it's that they do not know that you're interested to be involved in this specific area, right? And so I think by raising your hands, uh, people can see that you're interested. And I think a lot of learning, a lot of building of relationship happens on your way walking that 5 minutes as you walk towards the meeting room, on that 3 minutes and you're walking out from the meeting room, right? There's so much learning that can take place during such things. So that's why I feel like raising your hands is really really important. Yeah, and I think the third thing that we can do as a fresh hire is really to align expectations, because you enter into a team, you don't know your boss don't know you. I think it's really important to kind of help each other understand how to work together best, right? So for example, checking in and understanding, how often should you check in, how often should you report, to at the project junctures, check with your boss, hey, how am I doing so far? Are there certain things that I'm doing that it's not so appropriate? Are there certain things that you want me to change? Yeah, I feel like having such conversations are really, really important, right? So I feel that, yeah, those are a few things I think will really allow you to level up quickly from a negative liability and turn yourself into an asset.
Absolutely. I think it's also quite important that, as students who are completely new to this, is just to be comfortable with this new environment, because obviously it's very uncomfortable for them and they wouldn't want to mess up or just, make a really bad impression. So what you said definitely can be fruitful to most of our listeners here today. Okay, thank you, Jalok, for that advice. Rachel, do you have anything to extend on what Jalok has to say?
Yeah, I think Jalak, I really resonate with the points, on the proactivity and really understanding where you lie in the bigger picture of things. Definitely, I think like at BCG it was actually quite interesting when I first started out. There's this practice called the mutual development agreement, and so before each case, you actually sit down with your boss or your manager, and you identify three things. So like, what are three things that you really want to develop throughout this case? And it's a two-way conversation where he then talks to you as well and suggests avenues to then help you develop. So for example, let's say if I wanted to develop my communication skills, then he'll say, okay, so every meeting when we have and you get to present your own module, and that's where you can develop those skills. And I think that that was really great. And I realized, like some of my friends at different firms, they actually don't really have that conversation with their bosses. And I think, moving forward, if you're going into an internship or going into a job, this is something you can definitely do with your boss. Have just a really casual conversation in terms of how you want the next few months to unfold.
Yeah, no, I love what you shared, Richard, and I think it's really great that you have that in BCG. Personally, for me, well, in my company, we do it on a more ad hoc basis. So when I was about 1 year, oh, sorry, not 1 year, that would be too long. 1 month, it went into my job. I actually just because as a fresh hire, like I say, right, I felt so much like a burden, and I wasn't sure whether I was doing fine and stuff like that. So I texted my boss and like, hey, would it be okay for us to grab a chat, just to hear how I'm doing and stuff like that? And it was really nice. He took me to breakfast. Uh, yeah, we had like kaya toast and eggs and stuff. And that was when he shared with me that actually as a fresh hire you are doing well. So for the next few months, just continue to be open to learn, and lend a helping hand where you're able to, right? And so for me, I know that, oh, okay, actually that's where I stand. and I felt a lot more assured after that. So I really encourage all of us to be proactive. If you have, arrangement like what Rachel has in her company, that would be great. But even if not, many people are willing to help, and many people are so happy to share with you their feedback. They just don't know that you're open to listening. So I think by you taking that
Mhm.
step, you are inviting other people to add value into your life and help you grow.
Yeah, I
Rachel,
think
back
Absolutely.
to
that's a
you.
great point. No, I think that's a great point. Definitely resonate with that. Yes.
Absolutely. I think it's also really important for us who are currently new in this working environment to just have that open communication with our, colleagues as well as our bosses. So I think that advice is quite fruitful as well. So next up, like assuming like students already have that all down and they're in their new working environment, they are getting used to it, especially like excelling in their work. So all this can potentially come at a cost of our mindsets just drifting apart and like just crashing. So the question that I have for the both of you, and I think Jalot can start sharing first, is how do you best manage this form of energy in order to make it a lot more sustainable, like balancing all these commitments for these groups of students.
Yeah, so you're really talking about, well, maybe I can share a little bit of my own experience. Um, about 1.5 years into my career, that was when I realized that, I took a look at my life, and that was when I realized that it looked almost like in the last 1.5 years, the only thing that really moved was my career. Other aspects, whether we talk about finance, whether we talk about family, friends, personal interests as well. I felt like many of these things were so stagnant, right? And I was, well, in some sense, I was a bit surprised when I was in that position. I was like, oh, how is it that 1.5 years has passed, but I have not grown a single bit in this other area of my life? Um, and upon reflection, that's when I realized it's so important to develop a structure to your life and to be deliberate about growing the other aspects of your life. Because, as a student back in university, a lot of things are kind of planned out for us. Like in university, there's a time, when lecture begins, when lecture ends. Learning is something that is your job. It's your job to learn, right? There is also your co-curricular activities, right? Those are there to develop your interests, right? You have friends as a natural function of just how a university works. And there's a time to work really, really hard, and there's a time to just relax and go for holidays, travel with your friends. So with university, everything is kind of set in place already for you, right? But once you begin working, the environment change quite tremendously. The only thing that continues to have a defined rhythm to it is your career, right? There's a time for when this project begins. There's a time when this project ends. There's a time where you are, once a year you'll be appraised for your performance. Once a year, your company will decide how much bonus to give you, for example, right? So there is always a rhythm there when you close, when you start, when you work hard, and so on and so forth. But other aspects of life, family, friends, when to travel, if you do not be deliberate about it, if you do not, schedule in my break to Japan, or this is when I'm going to have my holidays, or this is when I'm going to uh, pick up gardening or go hiking with my friends. If you don't schedule that in yourself, those will never happen, right? And so, what that taught me really is that it's really important to set goals for all aspects of your life if you want to grow as a complete individual. Otherwise, one day you wake up and you realize that the only thing that has moved an inch is your career. And I think it is not a great position to be in. Yeah. So my advice really is to be deliberate, set your goals for all areas of life.
Great. So it seems that Jalak, your advice is like, setting goals being the basic foundation for anyone's balance. So it doesn't matter if it's work-life balance or just everyday balance with your personal life. So I'd like to move on to Rachel. What happens if you perhaps experience burnout? So we heard from Jalak like how he mentioned that, that in that 1.5 years, he did actually have this like turning point where he realized, hey, actually is something potentially like not like I mean something's maybe wrong or like something's not going to plan. So like in your opinion, Rachel, if you were to experience burnout as a student who's going into the working life, Do you have any tips for that, or do you have any personal experience you'd like to share?
Yep, that's a great question, Stella. I think definitely resonate with what Jalak has mentioned in terms of being strategic and not reactive. And in terms of practical advice, I think what I found very helpful was finding ways to really manage my stress very effectively. And what I found was that specifically meditation really helped. I'm not sure if it's going to help for you, but that's something that you have to actually try as you go along toward this journey as well. I know a lot of people who really enjoy art, singing, or dancing. Finding time blocks within the week or the time for you to actually do that and release that stress is very important. And I think that's something that's helped me so far. I think also a second advice would be, to reach out to people. Sometimes, you know, talking to your friends at work is great, but also finding a really trusted circle of friends and family that you can really, pour out your heart to or really rely on. I think having that anchor really helped me throughout my whole university life and also throughout work. And I think I really urge for people to find that circle as well.
So it sounds like, Rachel, you're quite lucky that you managed to find some people that you could share your emotional and like life burdens with. So moving on from like what Dialog mentioned about life balance and Rachel, your view on burnout. So I'd like to go to our final question, which is for both of you. When you reflect on your journey up until now, is there any particular piece of advice that you would tell your younger self that the youths of today can apply to? So maybe Dialog, you can go first.
Big question. Um, if there's just one piece of advice I can share, and that's advice for myself as well at this point in my life, it would be to develop your why. I think it's really important for us to lead a purpose-led life. I think it's really important to know what are things that make you excited, what are the things that you care about, what are the things that you want to fight for. And for me, beginning to discover that has, and I don't think I'm fully there yet, right? But I think beginning to
Mhm.
discover that has definitely helped. And I think it stopped because it's so tempting for you to compare yourself with other people, right? At the age of 27, oh, someone else is doing this, where am I? At the age of 28, oh, someone else is already on the newspaper or something else, and where am I? It's really tempting to do that kind of comparison. But I think when you look back to, oh, this is what I care about, and this is therefore how I've chosen to invest my time, and this is why I'm where I am now, right? Instead of somewhere else. I think when your life fits together as a coherent story, uh, you'll be much more self-assured, and you'll be much less tempted to just say that, oh, I want everything, or I want to be like someone else and someone else and someone else, because it's not possible to do everything at one time. But you choose that this is what I care about, and this is therefore where I am. Yeah. So my advice for everyone: develop your why, stick to your lane, and yeah, be proud of who you are.
Very nice. So it seems like Dallas got his one piece of advice. What about you, Rachel?
Thanks. I think building upon what Jalak has mentioned on developing your why and also being a better version of yourself. I think to supplement that, my advice would be don't be too harsh on yourself. The journey that you choose can be a rough one. Don't beat up yourself if you don't get it right the first time. Most people don't. And also to really have the mindset that no problem can't be fixed. Every problem has a solution and you can work through it. And that's something that I find very helpful so far as a piece of advice, and I hope that it will be helpful to you too.
Thank you for sharing that pieces of advice from the both of you. I'm sure like most of our listeners can definitely extract the why now a lot more clearer and why they should prioritize that a lot more, as well as the emphasis on how most problems have solutions. It's just like up to you to break it down to smaller problems, right? So they're a lot more manageable, right? All right. So, thank you guys so much for being with us in this second episode. I'm sure it's definitely a fruitful discussion for everyone who's currently listening. So, it's really been a pleasure for us and the listeners to have both of you on our podcast today. Thank you both very much for spending the time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Invite us back again, if there's ever a chance.
Yeah, and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe down below.
Yeah, definitely. So, that's all for this episode of the Hearing Youth podcast, where youth,
Heard it first.
once again, we appreciate your support and we look forward to seeing all of you again in the next episode. So, stay tuned.